Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sincerely Agile with Mary. If you're joining us for the first time, this is a place where we want to learn, unlearn, and relearn, make change agents of ourselves, and above all, it is a place where we want to be awesome and wholesome together. Today, we're looking at leadership qualities and developmental priorities. Now, this is a topical subject, given that in less than 2 weeks, all Nigerians all over the world are quite interested in this topic right now because we will be heading to the polls for our general election. And I have here with me a panel conversation with Ayotola Jagun. I'm just going to bring her. Hello, Ayotola. How are you?
Hi, Mary. I'm well, thank you. Apologies for the venue.
That's fine. That's fine. Ayotola Jagun is the Chief Compliance Officer and Company Secretary at Oando PLC. I also have with me Prince Bowo Olateru Olagbegi, Chairman Y9 Group. Thank you for joining me here today. And also, I've got Michael Obiemada.
Hey,
Nice to have you here.
what's going
Entrepreneur,
on?
author, and speaker. Thank you so much for making the time to join me. Now, we are all
Yeah.
Nigerians. We are all Nigerians, and this is a subject that is dear to our hearts. And we will be heading to the polls in less than 2 weeks for the general election. And what better to be talking about right now but leadership qualities and developmental priorities? How can we turn this ship called Nigeria? How can we turn it around? Take baby steps in the right direction. Now, let's start with leadership qualities. And of course, ladies first. Tola Jagun, do you want to hit on that one for me, please?
Okay, actually, we've got about 6 days to the general election, so really interesting time. In terms of leadership qualities, what kind of leaders we need, I would say, and first of all, again, thank you for this opportunity. It's really, really good catching up with you, old friends, and uncles, and wonderful, wonderful time. Like I'm in Lagos right now, and there's been a lot going on over the last few weeks, particularly leading up to the election. So what kind of leadership qualities do we need in a leader? I think above all, we need a leader who is connected with the people and empathetic to the needs of the people. So empathy is something that is a leadership quality I think we really need. Nigerians have been suffering quite a bit in recent times with long petrol queues, with the cash crunch, the lack of availability of cash, and the fact that decisions are made without really thinking about the ramifications to the lowest common denominator in terms of the man on the street. And so somebody who is really empathetic and is able to properly risk manage and look at the impact and effect of their decisions on the ordinary man on the street, I think is something that is critical. Someone also who has vision, who is able to see things in the long term. Our politicians tend to be very short termist. And I think it's a result also of the way our political system, so somebody's in office for 4 years, 8 years at the most. And so they don't think really beyond that time. And to build a nation, you need to really think long term. If we look at the example of Dubai, the example of Singapore, for all the nations that we look up to, I mean, these men had like 50-year visions for their nations. And we need somebody who is able to have a long-term vision for Nigeria that outlives his time or her time in office. So it's not just a case of, oh, I'm only here for 8 years, and in 8 years, what can I do? Either a sense of helplessness or even a sense of, continuity. We talk about sustainability, but, there's no continuity, that we can see. Somebody else comes into power, for instance, and they start all over again, reinventing the wheel. And so we don't have that long-term vision. We had Vision 2020, which came and went and was never really implemented. We have the various things that are there, yeah, right, but there's no guarantee in terms of implementation. I'm just going to mention one more thing. So I've talked about empathy, I've talked about vision, integrity. We can't run away from that. We need a leader with integrity. And what is integrity? Being a man or a woman of your word, following through, doing the right thing even when no one is watching you, paying attention to what you're doing, and really just being a person of your word, and doing the right thing. It's about doing righteousness. It's not about only I understand or doing the right thing for people, the people help you get into power. But again, like I spoke about, it's about having a vision for the whole of Nigeria, irrespective of what tribe you come from, what sex you are, what religion you are, just doing the right thing always. Thank you. I'll stop there because I know my other speakers have other things to say.
Very well articulated, Tola. Very well articulated. Let me go to Prince Ola Tero Olagbegi. What can you contribute to that, please? We can't hear you. While you sort that out, maybe I should go to Michael Oviemada while you sort that out. Michael, what can you say to that, please?
Yes. The first speaker has correctly articulated the qualities of the kind of leader that we need, or that any country for that matter needs. Why that noise? Can you hear me?
I can hear some noise, yes,
Yeah,
in the
where's that
background.
noise coming from?
I don't know. It's coming from Bo, actually.
Okay.
I just muted him, yeah.
Okay, good.
I,
Now,
I actually I thought it was coming from Tola because she's at the beach. So
okay.
I sort of ignored it, but it's coming from our prince.
Okay. Yeah. Now, but we're still attempting to speak, is he?
Yeah, well, yes, I think so. So
Can
you
you hear me now? I
carry
just
on.
want to be sure. Can
Yes,
you
yes,
okay.
yes, I
Now
can
we
hear you
can
now.
hear you.
Now
Okay,
we can hear
go
you.
back to him. Go back to him.
Okay,
Okay.
so back to the
Wonderful.
prince.
Okay, thank you so much. I mean, this is Mary. Thank you so much. This is a very important meeting at this time in the history of Nigeria, and there's no better thing to start with than the qualities of the kind of person we want to be at the helm of our affairs. And I put this in a very, I try to the acronym, the three C's, one I, one S. The three C's I talk about: character, competence, capability. And character is the most important. You can't do without character, all the others are useless. Character, in terms of the kind of person, must be somebody who has integrity. Your word is your bond. Most politicians are known not to be men or women of character. But at this time in the history of Nigeria, the kind of person we need has to be somebody who has character. Because we have been through so much, and we can't afford another, uh, another kind of person. Then the other one, of course, the person must be competent. You see, the truth of the matter is that we can't just have professional politicians. It has to be somebody who can do the job. Can you do the job? Must be competent. And then the third one, the third C, the person must be capable. And that is holistic capability in terms of the brain power, the physical, the spiritual, and what have you. It has to be there. Nigeria has so much baggage that the person who will run the affairs in the next couple of years has to be somebody who is selfless, who is courageous, who can hit the ground running. We don't have time. We've lost, in the last couple of years, we have lost so much ground. So it's like we're going back to 10 years and then taking it from there. So you can imagine the whole world is ahead. So we need somebody who can hit the ground running, who can help us to bridge that gap. Then, of course, we need somebody who is a servant leader. Like Ayo said, somebody who can connect with the people, who can feel, who can be empathetic. You don't come years, lording it over people. You have to be a servant leader. And one thing that has characterized the nature of our Nigerian politics is impunity. You're in office and you're like, hey, no, it's me. So impunity is something that has to be addressed, and it has to come from the head. The leader must say, hey, wait a minute, I'm not above the law. And that flows right down to the man on the street. Because right now, everybody thinks they can do whatever they like. And that is one of the things that is destabilizing, the Nigerian environment. So we need somebody who can come in and say, hey, I'm a leader, but hey, I'm your servant first before being a leader. So I know Mike is, want to say one or two
Thank you
things.
very much for that contribution there. Over to you, Michael.
Yes, the two speakers have pretty much articulated all the qualities that a country needs, or in a lead, a country needs in a leader. There's really nothing much to add except to say that, having said all of that, democracy is what democracy is. And democracy is not about getting the best man to do the job. It's about getting the most popular person to do the job. It's about getting the person with the deepest pocket to do the job. It's about getting the person with the widest connections to do the job. So maybe we really need to rethink our democracy to begin with in the first place. Are you with me?
Right. I
Yeah.
am with you.
What kind of democracy do we want to grow in our country? Should it be democracy of the popular vote? Should it be democracy of zoning? Should it be democracy of the town hall type, where everybody starts from their villages, from the world? You begin to emerge. Okay, who is the best man in the world? Let's start the conversation from the world, instead of going all the way to the delegate level, where you now need 20 billion to bribe 800 people to elect you as a presidential candidate. So, having said all of the things that these two brilliant people have said, my question is, how do we get that competent man, that competent woman? How do we get that courageous person? How do we get that person with integrity to emerge from a country of 215 million people, if the democracy we are practicing is the democracy of of money bags? So that is where I have a challenge.
And I think that's just a good segue into my next area I would like us to talk about, which is our constitution. How can our constitution serve us better? Because this is, I mean, we've had a lot of talk about constitutions over the years. Is it serving us? How can we, does it need to be changed in the first instance? Is it serving us as it is? What
Let
needs
me
to change in the
chime in here.
constitution?
Let me chime in
Yeah.
here. I'm sorry, Tola. I'm sure in rotating, it may be your turn to speak now, but let me chime in here.
Yeah.
The issue about the Constitution is a very topical one. To begin with, right now, truth be told, we do not have a Constitution. We're just pretending to have one, because one was, quote and unquote, created for us before the emergence of this constitutional government in 1999. It does not start with we the people. We the people have never sat down since 1976, when the 1979 constitution was crafted. I don't think we've sat down to craft another constitution. The military has just come together at every point to give us a document. So that's where we have a problem to begin with. The last true constitution Nigeria had was the 1979 constitution, which was a big departure from the 1963 constitution, which was regional. The 1963 constitution was regional. The regions worked at their own pace to contribute to the center. But we have come to see that it is not the constitution that's a problem. Right. Instead of the constitution, we're looking at men. What are the forms of men we have in our country? No matter what constitution you give to Nigerians, or to any group of people for that matter, anywhere in the world, as you could see with the January 6th insurrection in America 2 years ago, anybody anywhere in the world can tamper with any constitution the way they like, if you give them the opportunity to do so. America was already on a backslide, to anarchy before the last president was voted out. If he had had one more chance, we would be a banana republic already in the United States. So anyway, look at China. The man just extended his stay to 2035. He has truncated the form of democracy they had begun to grow in that country. Look at Putin; he has truncated your democracy. Look at Erdogan in Turkey;
Okay.
he's truncated it. So the thing is, it's not the constitution; it's the forms of men, forms of women, forms of people we have in our country instead of forms of government and the constitution.
Which takes us back to what Tola said, it's about integrity. So it's, most definitely about the people. Prince, what do you want to add to that, please?
Well, as much as I would like to agree with Mike, I still believe that the Constitution has a role to play. The Constitution is a containment, like the one in the US. Trump was contained. Otherwise, I mean, we won't be where we are today. So, talk back to Nigeria. There is a need to rework the Constitution, obviously. The center is too heavy. And in a place like Nigeria, where you have an over concentration of power at the center, it leaves everybody almost at the mercy of the center. Like Mike adduced to, before now we had regional powers. And the kind of constitution I would like us to see is where we go back to those areas where there is devolution of powers from the center to the respective, from the states, even to the local government.
Yeah.
You will find out, look at Lagos State, for instance, they have 57 local government governing authorities, and it is gradually bringing developments to those levels. Can you then imagine if there's devolution of power where we have the states, empowered? And you went back to where we were before, where in the South, look at where you have areas where you have competences. In the North, they have competences, and every state or region is allowed to develop at their own pace, and then they're competing, and then we're now contributing to the center. Unlike now, the center is giving, droppings to everybody. Let us go back to where in fact, there's going to be what they call competition amongst the states. You will do this, you will do this, and at the end of the day, Nigeria will be stronger based on the strength of the individual units. And I think we need to, because now, even if we have all the leaders, the qualities of the leader that we described first of all, this constitution will in fact imprison him. There's going to be a limit to how much it can accomplish. So the first point is, let us rework that constitution and empower the president, to be able to do what is elected to do.
Fantastic. And I totally agree with you, because no matter how competent people are, if they do not have the authority, so to speak, to back them up, then they really can't do much. Ayotola, I know you're a lawyer. The law, what do you want to say about the Constitution?
So I am so excited about what Michael's mentioned in terms of the Constitution obviously has to be understood by the people, accepted by the people, or at least endorsed by the people. So yes, we talk about the faulty foundation of the Constitution we have right now. It's not perfect, right? However, I feel that the Constitution is needed. There's so many good things about this Constitution. I mean, like, thank God for the separation of powers. Thank God for the constitutional human rights and the rights that the paper Constitution that we have gives us. Obviously, there's still issues with the Constitution, and those issues are manifold. First of all, I mean, Prince had mentioned the lack of the heaviness of the center. There is need for restructuring. It's interesting that our current president got in and said he was going to restructure on the page. That was one of his election promises. But he gets in and suddenly restructuring takes a back seat. 8 years on, we're still not restructured, right? Yeah. Current presidential candidates are not really talking about restructuring, but there's a big need for it. And why not? Why don't we restructure? Because and this is one of the faults of the Constitution we have, right? This whole thing about federal character is a problem, right? Because it doesn't reward competence, right? It doesn't reward the right person for the role. Also, it's protectionist. Our current Constitution has been so manipulated that it's protectionist of certain regions and certain parts of the country who have not been able to develop to the extent that other parts of the country have been able to develop. Yeah. I did an exercise with a group of friends, a group of people last year in September. We decided to adopt one state of the federation and learn as much as we could about each state. And we realized that each state had enough natural, human resources to
Yeah.
be able to be able to produce internally generated revenue that was equal, if not more, than the entire GDP of the entire country. I mean, I chose Borno. I was amazed at what was available in Borno, not even just from an agricultural point of view, the rich alluvial soil, which apparently is as a result of the fact that, when the flood waters of Noah subsided, because Lake Chad it had nowhere to go, all the sediments of all the animals that were in the flood, it kind of got embedded at the bottom, and so it's really rich alluvial soil. So agricultural wise, very, 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 very fertile soil. And then of course you have the natural minerals, you have the minerals and the metals, and then you have the rare earth minerals that is the reason for some of the fighting that we have seen with Boko Haram in the Zambezi forest. And, there's just so much. This country is so blessed, it's so rich, that, like Prince said, if we had a regional structure where everybody was even, just even go back to your state, I remember one of my friends had Anambra state, and Anambra is the center of logistics. When it comes to logistics, moving stuff around, I mean, this is why you had all the Ekene Dilichukus and everything. When it comes to manufacturing of vehicles, innocent, I mean, there are just some things that some people are so adept at doing. Yeah. Is it a Ekiti that has so much when it comes to healing? And when I'm talking about natural herbs and the know-how to create pharmaceuticals that nobody has seen before. Look, we have no lack of being able to progress as a nation, but we need to be restructured. We need to be able to determine our future. And we need a constitution that is inclusive. Again, as a woman, I can tell you that this current constitution is not inclusive. Yeah. And there is a large percentage of the population that this constitution, as it is being worked out, excludes. It excludes the young people by its operation. It excludes women. And so you have a large proportion of your productive force, human resource, that is not being utilized to its maximum. So it's unfortunately, like I said, very protectionist of a few, and therefore not the right constitution for us. But above all, one last thing I would say, it's very important that, again, whether it's working or it's not working, that the constitution is broken down in such a way that, again, I'm coming down to the common man, understands what it says, understands what their rights are under a constitution that is sufficient for us or that is right for us, and understands what their own responsibilities are to making this country a better country. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
One thing that I believe the current constitution has, made everybody so lazy because we're so dependent on the center. So we're just waiting, to collect. Whereas if there is devolution of powers and you're not expecting money from anywhere. So, if you don't generate the money, you starve. That will produce an internal, kind of competition that everybody, you're not waiting, just expecting largesse from anywhere. The largesse must come from you.
We will tap into the resources we have, like you said, both natural resources and our human resources. But right now, if everything is coming from the center, then you're just telling people to stay dormant and just wait for money from the center, which is not serving us.
My question is this, all right? There is no state in Nigeria right now that is not as homogeneous as it could be. Let me take my state, Edo State. We all speak virtually the same language. We are bigger. Edo State is bigger than 64 countries. To Tola's point now, Edo State is bigger than 64 countries by size, by resources, by numbers, 5.2 million people. Why can't the leader in Edo State, constitution or no constitution, think like a country? I don't have a Fulani man as governor in Edo State, so I am not going to blame a Fulani man. I don't have restructuring as a problem in Edo State, so I'm not going to blame the Constitution. I have a man who is a Bini man, an educated man, a well-traveled man, an economist. Think of your state as a country. There's nothing stopping any state right now from going to the moon. If I want to make my state, if I were governor of a state today, I want to make my state the richest state in Nigeria, nothing is going to stop me. So why don't we start from that leader who is going to be a servant leader, that leader who is going to be courageous enough, that leader who is going to be knowledgeable enough, who will be thrown up by the village. Let us have a system where we throw up smart people. I was in class 3 secondary school when I was chosen in a competition to represent my school in debate, in quiz. They didn't say, let's go and pick a class 5 student. They threw it open. Are you with me? That's the kind of thing we need, competition from the lower levels. Look, I tell you, no matter the constitution you write for Nigerians, look at Ekiti State, look at Ondo State, all the cocoa that they had in the regional area. What constitution are you going to write for them now to start to grow cocoa if the governor is not interested in growing cocoa? I like restructuring. Restructuring is good, but I'm saying that we need to restructure the human beings, not more than the constitution. The constitution is not my problem.
It's the mental infrastructure here, Michael. That's what you're saying. The mental infrastructure. We need to get it right here first. Otherwise, even the constitution will not serve us. Very, very great contribution. Any more additions to that before I move on to another area?
Well, for me, I think it's, for instance, if Edo State becomes very prosperous, let me tell you what will happen. It will become overwhelmed because it doesn't have the power. For instance, it doesn't have the power from stopping people from crossing into it. Whereas if there is a restructuring, the state can, for instance, say, everybody from Edo State would have free scholarship. Everybody from there will get maybe some kind of grant. Whereas today, if you do that, then there will be an influx. So I'm still saying that there is some kind of containment with the way the constitution is structured. If there is that breakdown where it's okay, this is your area, then it gives me some kind of autonomy within that geographical area.
I understand what you're saying, but if everybody can just do what they can with the resources they have, and if this is happening across the country, then we wouldn't have just local optimizations. We will have a global optimization because everybody is doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Which is what I'm saying. Look at Lagos State, for instance. Look at the influx of people into Lagos. Absolutely. But Lagos seems to be the only state that is, a little bit.
Absolutely. And that takes us back to what Tola said earlier on about, that strategy we should have for 20 years, 30 years. I mean, look at Dubai. Dubai didn't just spring up. It was something, it was a vision, and they acted on that vision. And today we all flock to Dubai, right? Now, what we see happening in our environment is this. We have a pet project syndrome, if you like. We keep starting. As an Agilist, I guess I have to say this. We keep starting, we never finish. And in Agile, we say stop starting and start finishing. Okay? So we keep starting projects, never really finishing them because we have a pet project syndrome. So one governor comes in, starts a project for 4 years or 8 years. Another governor or president comes in, they start their own project. There's no continuity. We're not handing that baton over to the next person to carry on this, 30-year strategy or 50-year strategy that we have. And this is a huge setback for us.
And we can't have that. We can't have that because we are a democracy. Dubai is a theocracy, okay?
I don't agree with you because if we have a strategy, we can continue with the strategy.
No, we can't in that sense. You see, Singapore had one man for 20 years. Whom do you want to rule you for 20 years in Nigeria? After 4 years, we want to chase the man away. So I tell you what, we cannot eat our cake and have it at the same time. If we say we want a long-term strategy, then we should go back to monarchy and elect a king to come and govern us.
What I'm saying, Michael,
Yes.
is that we need the institutions to be stronger than the person in the office. That is what I'm saying.
I
We
totally
need
agree.
the institution to be stronger than the person. Right now in Nigeria, what I see is that powerful person in office. Now, for example, I mean, I'm not that old, but I remember how our ministries used to work. I remember how our hospitals work. You know, you go to the hospital, you have our nurses and our doctors well equipped. Everything was working. I remember that much. Okay. So we can have institutions that are working regardless of who is in the office. And I want to believe that our institutions can have their strategic intent over a period of time that can be continued by whoever takes that office. That is the point I'm trying to make. I'm not saying we should have anyone there for 30 years. That's not what I'm saying. Ayotola, please.
Yeah, I think institutional capacity and being able to build that is important, because ultimately it's a civil service, it's a civil service. And then that brings us to the issues we have with our current civil service, right? Because, and there are issues of competence, there are issues of nepotism that has brought in the wrong people, again, as a result of our constitution, federal character, and all of those types of things. So restructuring is very, very core to being able to move Nigeria forward. There was something I was going to say about the arguments that we just had about, can't quite remember right now, but it was important at the time. Oh yes, I know what it was. Okay. No, it was about, the influx into the states that are doing well. And, one of the things that when we did this project in last year, we realized that it's very, very sad, right? Because I live in Lagos. I've always lived in Lagos. Whenever I've been in Nigeria, Lagos has been my home. But I'm from Ogun State, right? I happen to have a business, a farm in Ogun State. Unfortunately, I'm from Ijebu-Ode and my farm is in Abeokuta. And I'm being reminded all the time that I am Ijebu and not Egba. And so I'm having problems with my communities where my farm is, even though it's government allocation, because I'm being reminded, right, that I am Ijebu-Ode and I'm not from Abeokuta, I'm not Egba, and therefore I should go to Ijebu-Ode to farm.
Even though you might be creating employment for the people in Abeokuta.
Employment, I am helping with food insecurity in the country. And this goes to what my Uncle Michael said. The mindset needs to be restructured. I totally agree. Because the mindset is completely wrong. Now, there is, but again, going to what Prince said, there is nothing better, right, than you who come from Edo State, going back to Edo State and living in Lagos where you're living like a beggar and a second-class citizen, going back to Edo State and building Edo State. Yeah. And honestly, I really feel that is the solution, because nobody is a son of the soil in Edo State more than an Edo man.
Yes.
And there's a reason for that. I really believe that, it's important to come from a place and to be part of a tribe and to be part of a people.
Yes.
Right?
But I also want us to be careful with that statement. I also want us to be careful with that statement, Dr. Ola, because then it will look like we are trying to say Edo people stay in Edo State, Lagosians stay in Lagos. We need to be careful with that statement as well.
I am saying in terms of building. That also means, look, there are people who move to Canada, who move to London, England, who move all over the world for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But I'm saying at this stage where we're trying to develop Africa, there's no joy. Yeah. There's no joy in me living in Lagos like a queen and then going to Ijebu-Ode where I come from, and there's nothing. The schools are not. That's why a lot of people who still have connections with where they come from, when they go back, they want to give something back because they want to see their people develop. Absolutely. So we're talking about the development of where we come from. Right. Look, there's nobody who says, when you ask where I come from, I'm from Nigeria. I'm in Nigeria and I'm proudly Nigerian, and I believe in one Nigeria. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I understand that I also come from a place in Nigeria, and it's important for where I come from, for that place to be developed, because where is the pride? Where is the pride? It means say my Oriki.
Yes.
Because I have an Oriki, I have a place I come from, and not being proud of where I come from. So I
Yes.
think it's both ways. I'm not saying, everybody from Edo say go back to Edo, but those who can go back to Edo,
And do
who are
something.
living and do something there, go and do something there rather than live like a pauper in Lagos or live like a pauper in Abuja. Do you
Yeah.
understand? Be empowered, because there's no better place of empowerment for you than where you are from.
I,
Or
I, I
that
agree with
should be
that.
the case.
I
Thank
agree.
you.
And there's so much we can all do, those in Nigeria, those that are scattered all over the diaspora. For example, I mean, today we have a lot of people in the diaspora who are actually mentoring, our youths in Nigeria via Zoom. I'm training people in Nigeria via Zoom. So there's a whole lot that we can do, especially now that we can leverage technology. But before we come to talking about technology, which is one area I also want us to talk about, let's talk about priorities for an enabling environment. Because you see, resources are always limited somewhat. We can't do everything. I mean, if we want to look at the problems we have in Nigeria today, we definitely can't solve everything in 1 year. So this conversation, like I said, it's about, turning the ship around, taking baby steps in the right direction. If we can at least just turn the ship around and start taking baby steps and creating an enabling environment, then people like me can go to Edo State, where I come from, and perhaps go and do a thing or two. And these days, you don't need to know any big person to do what you can do. Just start small and empower one, two, three people. It's about scaling. When we empower people to do stuff, to train other people, then before you know it, you start to build capacity. So we can't do everything. But in terms of priorities, what should be the priorities for the next incoming president of Nigeria? Is it electricity? Is it good roads? Is it education? Is it hospital? What can give us that 80-20 so that we can leapfrog in the right direction?
It's, it's all of these things, but
Yeah.
above everything else is security.
Okay.
Now, without security of life and property, there's nothing anybody can do. And that is the exclusive, I repeat again, exclusive prerogative of the federal government of Nigeria. They hold all the instruments
Right.
of power, the instruments of coercion. All right. Nobody else, no state has the power to do anything about security other than the federal government. So the question is, how is the next president going to address security in Nigeria? That's a big elephant in the room. We can't do anything in
Right.
an atmosphere where you go to the farm, you're kidnapped. You're
Mhm.
traveling for business, you're kidnapped. You are in your house, you're kidnapped by your house help, by your driver. Your driver kidnaps your children. How do we solve all these problems of security when all the powers of security
Mhm.
are concentrated in the hands of the federal government? That is where I agree to a large extent with the issues of restructuring. We
Okay.
need to devolve the powers of security to all other levels so that even a local government, can have the ability to enforce issues of security in its environment. We do need those things. I mean, there's no running away from that. And I'm sure we're not going to escape it with the next president. Nigeria has been growing, whether we like it or not. We've been taking all those steps to grow as a nation,
Yeah.
okay, with all the problems that we have. And at this time now, I think we have the critical mass in terms of devolution of powers in the area of security. Even even the most stringent opponents of restructuring in the North haven't experienced all the insecurity of the past 8 years. They are even now shouting and screaming for local and state police. So it's going to be an
Right.
inevitability with the next president.
Okay. Prince, what do you have to say to that?
Well, talking about priorities, the last couple of years I've seen the I've seen so many things gone wrong
Can
in
can we see
Nigeria.
your face properly? Yeah, that's better.
Okay. The last couple of years, I've seen so many things broken down in Nigeria that all of a sudden we have so many priorities contending for
Exactly.
attention at the same time.
That's
But
correct.
the immediate quick wins, to my mind, Mike spoke about security, which you can never understate that. Then next to that will be, for me, the removal of subsidy. That is like an albatross weighing down on the economy. Then next to that, I will say this dual exchange system. So those things, if you get there from day one and you take those ones out, you can begin to, already you have created an enabling environment. You have created an enabling environment. So for me, I mean, those are things. How can we have? Look at how much we spend on subsidizing all. And it has created so much wastage in the economy. We don't even have money to pay for infrastructure, the things that are needed. So the infrastructure has broken down completely because we don't have the courage to remove subsidy. And we've maintained the dual exchange rate. Of course, security is there. So that, to my mind, is very, very important. Next to that, of course, is rebuilding trust with the people. The last couple of years, there's so religious diversity, ethnic diversity. So it's become so widened beyond any imagination. Where, some of us have friends who are from other areas of the country, and we've never had it this bad. So there has to be a rebuilding of trust with the people. Yeah. So those are about 3-4 things very quickly.
Back to you, Michael.
Yes.
Back to you. What else?
Oh, where's Tola? Okay.
We lost her. She probably joined again.
For a minute.
Okay, so like I said, if you next to security, which is of course an almighty thing, and security, we should look at the removal of subsidy, because we're talking of priorities here.
Yes.
And for me, is that the first 100 days, what should the next leader do? Address security head on, remove subsidy from day one, make sure there is elimination of the dual exchange rate system. Then maybe we need to.
You're speaking as an elite, Bowo. You see,
which he is.
Yes, my friend in the village has no business with dual exchange rates.
But it's affecting everybody.
My uncle in the village has no business.
It's affecting everybody.
Subsidy. No, that's not the problem that we have. Yeah, that's elitist talk. What are the things that will affect the common man immediately as priority? If the common man in your village in Owo has electricity 24 hours, he won't have to carry his gari, his cassava, 1 hour away to go and process. These are the immediate things that can impact the lives of the people. Electricity. That if anything is going to be restructured at all, it is to devolve powers to such an extent that a world can produce its own electricity for its own consumption, for its own people. Are you with me? With electricity, we'll almost not need anybody to govern us anymore, because now everybody can create their own wealth. What does the Constitution say in the United States? It talks about the pursuit of happiness. And that is the need of every human being everywhere in the world, every community everywhere in the world. How do we pursue happiness in such a way that I do not step on your own happiness to get my own happiness? How do I grow my crops in such a way that a man does not come tomorrow with his own pursuit of happiness to eat up the crops on my land? Haven't harvested the crops. How do I now treat those crops before they get to the market? How do I add value? Do I have the ability to add value very quickly? Which are some of the things you have been working on also, okay, by trying to provide facilities to people in and around your village for processing rice, for processing cassava, and all those things. Those are things you've done through the years and you're still doing. Those are the basic things that affect people's lives.
Absolutely.
Well, Mike, that is an environment. The subject matter is priorities for creating that environment. So we're talking about what are the priorities that would lead to that environment. You can't have that environment if there is no security. You can't have that environment if there is no, the dual exchange rate has contributed to what we have, artificial inflation. Which, if I want to, for instance, provide that, maybe a rice meal for people in my village, it's become almost prohibitive because of the dual exchange rate. The subsidy as well is very, very important, because without removal of subsidy, things have become so expensive because it's important because the priority that needs to be addressed to take us to that kind of environment. What you're speaking about is the end. We're talking about the process to get to that end. And
Right.
part of the process is, look, if you don't remove subsidy, if you don't remove the dual exchange rate, then you can't get to that end. It will just become a figment of your imagination.
Imagination.
Because you need money, you need the resources to be able to provide that kind of thing. So that's what I'm trying to speak to. Say priorities for an enabling environment. You talk about electricity. Yes, that is an environment that has to be enabled for it to function. But if you don't take all these albatross from the neck of the people, you can't even achieve that environment in the first instance.
So why, one of the things I find very interesting when we're talking about subjects like this is how the average intelligent Nigerian can articulate, solutions to the problems that we have. Okay, so we are not short of great minds, right? But somehow it seems like doing the right thing, coming up with the right, projects or whatever can push us forward has just been an impossible thing to happen. Now, talking about subsidy removal, why is that such a big thing to undo? Why can't we remove subsidy? This has been a conversation for a very long time because you're saying that is something that can create an enabling environment. So why is that not happening?
It's just that people don't have the political will, period.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
you know that this is something that is fundamental,
Yeah.
but you don't have the political will because you think people will riot. And for me, it is so easy to remove subsidy. If the leader comes in clean, say, look, wait a minute, I'm starting with myself. You don't want to remove subsidy from my Gary when you are driving 10 cars on the road, when the assembly people are collecting billions. I'm not going to allow you to remove any subsidy from petrol. But if you see, it must start from self. If you say, wait a minute, this is where we are, we need to remove subsidy. And we're starting. The president says, look, from today, I'm going to fly commercial. From today, I'm not going to be going abroad for medical treatment. Then, if you now say subsidy, everybody will say, please go ahead and remove subsidy. You cannot be chopping and then you're telling me the small petrol that I'm getting, you want to remove it.
I see your point.
That is the fundamental thing. So the leaders must start from sacrificial leadership. Now, wait a minute, this is where we are at this stage in the life of the country. We're going to start, instead of 10 cars, what do they call convoy?
Convoy.
Hey, I'm going somewhere, just myself and 2 other cars, that's enough. Or I'm even, like I said before, why don't I go in a bus? Go in a bus with my entourage. So instead of having 10 cars, there are 10 of us.
From an environmental point of view, that would perhaps be the right thing to do now.
10
You
cars
see,
on the
I'm
road,
interested
we all
here
go in a
in
bus.
hearing. I think I'm interested in hearing from Tola, being
absolutely.
in the oil industry.
Absolutely.
What
I'm
she
so
has
sorry
to say
that
about subsidy.
I dropped off at a time. Oh,
That's
Yeah.
all right.
we've been for subsidy removal for a very long time because right now subsidy operates as a tax on the common man.
Yeah.
That is what they really don't understand. At the end of the day, subsidy is just benefiting a few people, right? Who get all these allocations to bring in refined petroleum products, claim subsidy, and it's still a tax on the people. I mean, if you tell me the country can't afford it, that's the priority. That's the most important thing. And subsidy has stopped us from doing the work that we needed to do in terms of fixing our refineries. Right? If we fix our refineries, for crying out loud, we produce crude. We produce crude, right? And so there is no reason why we should be taking that crude out, selling it at how many dollars a barrel, bringing in to a refinery, and all the trading costs and all the people who are making money from the process of selling your crude, plus the ones who are sabotaging and polluting and all the illegal refineries and all the security issues. I don't even think our problem so much is security, it's integrity or the lack of it, right? Because our security issues at the end of the day are issues to do with integrity. right? They're not necessarily the fact that the army cannot protect us or we don't have enough money to buy. No, it's the fact that it is in some people's best interest for there to be insecurity in Nigeria.
Mhm.
And the instability and insecurity is profiting a few.
That's
And we have
right.
to understand that, right? And so if we want to, I said something. First of all, there's no subsidy on kerosene now. People are still buying kerosene.
Exactly.
There's no subsidy on diesel,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now that diesel is so expensive, what's happened is that people have now been going into renewable energy. And
Yes.
very soon, by the time the price of diesel, if it ever goes back down, there'll be no point
Yes.
because everybody is now focused on my solar
Renewable.
panel, my
Yeah.
inverter, because I cannot afford. So, in the same way, I believe that if subsidy is removed from petrol, the tax that subsidy creates on the people in terms of increased cost of feeding. I mean, people think if subsidy is removed, food prices are going to go up. The whole thing is artificial at the moment.
Yeah.
There's an inflation that is caused by the existence of subsidy, that if it is removed, things will normalize.
So people need to be educated, Tola. People need to
Yes,
be
it's
educated because
education.
yes, people need to be educated. We need an awareness on why, it is important to remove subsidy so that because the average man on the street, like Prince said earlier on, if you remove the subsidy, then people may, start rioting to say, no, that is what I'm enjoying. But you're saying otherwise, Tola. You're saying this is a tax on the common
It's a
man.
tax on the people and it's a tax on the common
Apparently,
man.
it's a tax on the common man, but people do not understand it. So there needs to be some degree of education and awareness at the grassroots to get them to understand why this thing needs to be removed.
Because
And
the
one of the things
revenue,
yeah, go on.
the revenue that is being spent on subsidy is being taken away, understood, from something, whether it's
Exactly,
education or health,
exactly,
or
exactly.
it's been taken away from
It's been
security.
taken away from one
It's been
system
taken
within the
away
system.
somehow. Your
Yeah,
debt is increasing for not just your generation, but future generations
future
down to your
generation.
grandchildren. They will pay for it.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's so painful. It's so
And
painful.
like we've rightly analyzed, it's
Mhm.
creating a lot of inefficiencies within the system.
Yes, it
Now
is.
you're subsidizing this, and then of course you're now creating efficiencies in other areas.
Hmm.
So that needs to be understood. And like I said, very important, there must be sacrificial leadership.
That's
Doesn't matter
right.
too much
That's
education.
right.
If
Very,
the
very
president
important.
is still flying a private jet, his wife is going to Dubai in a private jet, the House of Assembly members are collecting billions. I won't allow you to remove, I will riot if you want to remove subsidy. So
That's the point. That's the
that,
point.
that
It
that
can't
with
happen without
people say, hey,
sacrifice. Yes.
we understand
I
you,
get it.
and it goes
I
back to
get
that
it.
empathy.
Empathy.
Yes, people, I understand you. This is where we are now. We're starting with ourselves.
Yes, we're
You know,
leading by
we're
examples.
leading by
It's a
example.
new dawn, and I really hope.
Everybody will rally around subsidy removal.
True.
If it's
Absolutely,
tax,
because enough already, isn't it? Enough already. Not a lot is working in Nigeria right now. I know we have pockets of successes here and there, but right now we cannot, put our hand on our chest and say we have a society that is working for everybody. It is not. Coming back to, I can't remember if it was Prince that said this earlier on, the local government areas. I live here in the United Kingdom. I'm in Kent. Everything I need, I go to my local council. I don't need to go to Big Ben. I don't need to go to London. I have no business there. Everything I need, I go to my local council. Is it school for my grandson? Is it medicals? Whatever. It's all local to me. And that is how we need to start thinking now. Making sure every locality is optimized so that the center is not too heavy. That is so important. Thank you very much for your contributions. Now, we can't finish this conversation without talking about our youths. Our youths make God knows what percentage of our population. What should the incoming president be doing with our youths?
Create
Tola,
jobs. Create
great
jobs.
jobs. Okay.
Yes. How do we create jobs? We need to, we need electricity to create jobs.
Yes, we do.
Back to electricity. You see, a few years ago,
Mm,
I returned to Nigeria to start a business. All right. Now, had this massive investment, 2008, 2009. And in fact, on day one, we hired 121 people. But guess what? When I bought the land and I started to till the land, nobody came to ask me, why are you tilling the land? What are you doing here? I started to build. Nobody came to ask me, what are you building? How can we help you? But on day one, the day we opened, on November 2nd, 2009, 5 people came to look for me. 5 people from different agencies of the government. And then they sat at the table. They said that they wanted to see Oga. So somebody came to call me. Then I said, hey, gentlemen, how can I help you? They said, oh, we are from the tax office, we are from the signage office, we are from this office, we are from that office, and we've come to present you with a tax bill of $897,000.
Dollars?
Sorry.
Meanwhile, business hasn't even started.
So 897,000 naira. I said, oh, I just started business 2 hours ago, and I already have incurred a tax of 897,000 naira. Come on, what kind of people are you? You know what, guys? Are you hungry? Give them food. You want to drink something? Give them something to drink. So at this point now, I put on my hat as a Nigerian. Are you with me? Because I have to survive.
Yes.
And this is the situation with every business across the country.
Yes.
No input from government, but they want to come and take something from you. So how do we get to that point where government is a partner with businesses, all right, in such a way that businesses can now think of creating jobs instead of just surviving?
Yes.
Every business in Nigeria is in survival mode instead of growth mode, okay? So we can begin to grow our businesses if we start to have that partnership between government and the people. And that partnership cannot begin until we have electricity, first of all, water, first of all, infrastructural development, first of all, good roads, to enable us do those things that normal people do in normal countries. To make normal progress. We're not asking for anything out of the ordinary here. Nobody is asking for the moon. No. Basic things. If I can have electricity working for me, I can double the number of people I hire every year for the next 10 years. And this is the truth.
Absolutely.
I have 6 generators in my establishment right now. Only one is working.
Because it's overworked. It is overworked.
That's indirect taxation right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's taxation right there. So we have a big problem on our hands, which governors can solve at their own level without waiting for the constitution. There is nothing stopping any governor. I repeat, I say it over and over again. There's nothing stopping any governor right now from partnering with business in his state instead of becoming an albatross on the business.
Thank you very much.
State. Nothing stopping any governor.
Thank you. Tola, what do you say for our youths? Oh, I just lost her. Prince, what do you have to say about empowering our youths?
Well, for me, the issue of empowering youths is even not, it's not a subject matter.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Our youths are so agile. They are. Even within the current hard environment, look at how they're thriving. So we've addressed is to create an enabling environment. The youth will run with it. Now look at the music, the entertainment industry. Look at the young people. Talk about all the artists doing well. Look at the film industry. Look at even the what do they call it? IT. Look at the young people. They're just flourishing.
Absolutely.
In spite of this
in spite of the lack of enabling environment.
Can you then imagine if we have an enabling environment?
Yeah.
The truth of the matter, Nigeria will be right there on top. Right there.
I agree. We've got just 1 minute left. Last words, Ayatollah.
We haven't said anything about the elections coming up on Saturday.
Well, we are talking about leadership priorities. Everything we're talking about is about the elections.
We're looking at the kind of person that should be elected, the kind of leadership qualities, the priorities for the next leader. So it's all part of
it's all part of it.
this subject matter will not be there if there's no election.
Absolutely. So essentially, don't go to the polls and vote someone because they are from your village.
Yeah.
Don't go to the polls and vote for any other reason other than the fact that you believe in one Nigeria and you truly want the best man to take
Let
care of
Tola have the last word.
yes, because this is a non-partisan conversation.
Tola,
So
come
go
on,
and
come
vote
on,
your
come on.
conscience. So Tola, over to you. Last words. We can't hear you. We can't hear you, Tola. Oh dear, I can't hear you. Oh, hold on. Let me see. Unmute. Hello, say something.
I would say that the young people need to be heard and seen.
They need
If you
to be
don't hear
heard.
them, they need to be heard and seen. And I think that our politicians, and so talking about going to the polls, it wasn't until NSAS, right, that people began to really understand the power and the frustration of the young people in Nigeria. The young people really began to rise up and understand the power they have, not just in terms of multitude, but in terms of what they are.
I've lost you again. She's talking from her car, so that must have been challenging.
Oh, wow.
Tola, we can't hear you, Tola. We can't hear you. Tola, we can't hear you.
All right, let's move on.
Okay. Okay, we can't hear you. Okay, so Prince, last words from you.
Yeah, we're going to the elections. It's so important for us not to be sentimental about it. It's so important for us to look at things from a different perspective. It cannot be business as usual. We must put on a new thinking cap. We must look forward. Who is the best man for the job? We talked about character, competence, capability. We talked about a man of integrity. And we talked about somebody who will create an enabling environment. If those two are in place, the other things will follow naturally. Have the right person who will create an enabling environment. The rest, the system will flourish on its own.
Thank you so much, Michael.
Oh, well, I pray for Nigeria that this coming Saturday, people will first of all come out to vote, to express themselves. Because a country, a people, a community deserves the leader it gets. And whoever we throw up this coming weekend, God be with him and God be with Nigeria.
Thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for investing time with me here on this very important subject. Tola, can you hear me right now? I can see you, but I can't hear you. Can you hear me though, Tola? She's fiddling with her phone. And when you're using your phone, sometimes the call will come in and interrupt, the session. Okay, Tola, unfortunately, we can't hear you. I need to bring this session to a close. Thank you so much for investing your time here with me this evening, because I know you had a tight schedule this evening. So thank you so much. So gentlemen, thank you very much. And to our audience, thank you so much. And may Nigeria succeed. May Nigeria succeed.
Amen.
May Nigeria succeed. It is important Nigeria succeed, because I want to come home. I definitely want to come home. I want to retire. I want to leave this cold environment and come back home. So may Nigeria succeed so that I can retire home.
Amen. Amen.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Last word from
Sorry
you.
about that.
Last word from you.
But it's all good.
Yeah. Good. So thank you very much. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having us. Lovely catching up.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.